What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Team Member Perspective podcast show. My name is Coulter. I'm your host, and today we are on part 7 of 7 of our sales process series for team members, which is all about referrals and networks. I believe that this piece of the sales process has the ability to completely take your production to a whole new level. And I'm going to show you why, but really I want to spend some time understanding how can we get referrals, number one, and then how can we systematize getting referrals consistently, and then how can we maybe just write more policies from these referrals. That's what we're going to cover today. So first and foremost, let's think about what referrals do for us. Let's think about what having someone in your network that can essentially funnel people your way. Let's see what that could do for us. I want you to think about your sales in the agency as this funnel, okay? And if we think about the top of this funnel here, this is basically, where you're going to be finding people to quote. You're going to be creating leads for yourself, right? If we think about auto insurance, at the top of this funnel, basically think of these as quotes. The more that you quote, the more you're going to sell. And that is the top of the funnel. If we don't find anybody to quote, nothing else matters down this funnel. So we want to make sure that as a producer, as a salesperson, we don't ever want the top of this funnel to dry up. And the way that we prevent it from drying up is to always be finding, proactively every single day, finding new business to bring into the agency, finding new households to quote for their auto and their home. Okay, so if we want to truly grow the auto insurance book, if you want to write more auto insurance, make sure that your pipeline stays full by constantly finding new households to quote, getting more leads. Okay, if you want to sell more auto insurance, that's what you're going to want to do. And I think it's important to always be finding, because what happens if you quote all these households and now all these households are in here as opportunities and you start just writing a lot of policies that life's going really good and all you can seem to find time to do is just write policies and wrap up policies that you kind of take your foot off the gas of your finding efforts. What's going to happen? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen is if you take your foot off the gas of your finding efforts and you aren't proactively placing more leads into the top of your funnel, placing more quotes into your top of your funnel, and just finding more people to quote and talk to about these different products, guess what's going to happen to your auto insurance production if you take your foot off the gas of the finding? It may not happen immediately, but I'll tell you in like a month or two, you're going to feel that. You're going to feel that, you took your foot off the gas of your finding efforts, and you're going to kind of feel like your pipeline has dried up a little bit because things were going so well, you were closing policies and you stopped finding, okay? And so the same thing goes with any line of insurance. If we think about life insurance, right? If you can continue to fill the top of this funnel with movement, with talking about life insurance with everybody that you possibly could, whether, maybe you're a new business team member and you're quoting, new households every day for auto and their home, right? Well, guess what? With some movement, with some initiative, guess what you can do? You can talk to these people about life insurance. You can create opportunities and basically fill your pipeline full of opportunities with new business. Maybe you're not a new business team member. Maybe you're taking everyday service calls and you're just mainly helping the agency with service. Well, you can also take advantage of all of those calls to create opportunities to fill the top of this funnel for life insurance. And, I think also, instead of just relying on these leads to come in to quote with new business and relying on all these service calls and the phones to just be busy for you to create life opportunities from that, I also think maybe we should look at maybe being proactive and making time every day that we dedicate to life insurance prospecting. I mean, we start to feel consistent and confident in our auto insurance production because we're always making time to prospect auto insurance. Well, if we want to feel confident in that same way with life insurance, maybe we should be proactive every day with prospecting life insurance, okay? And so the idea here is that we always want to be finding. Now, referrals and networks, I believe, is just another way to find. It's another way to add more and more quotes, more and more opportunities to your pipeline. And I believe that this is a very high leverage finding thing that we can be doing. is asking for referrals. Because the more referrals that we ask for, the more referrals that we're going to get. And I know that you know how hot these leads are when they're referrals, how much, better they are than all these other leads that we might be creating. Okay, but I think it's a congruence of all of these finding efforts that allows us to be consistent in our production, to consistently fill the top of this funnel with opportunities. But I do believe that referrals are the best. It's a goldmine of opportunity that most of us are not consistent with, okay? But we're going back to this funnel. The more quotes that you can have, the more opportunities that you can create for yourself, the more you're going to close, the more you're going to sell. So message one of referrals and networks is I want you to always have the mentality that I always need to be finding. On the days when I don't have anything else to do because my pipeline's dried up, it's easy to find then, but also specifically and intentionally on the days when you don't feel like you have time because you're either taking care of all of this service work or maybe you're just busy writing policies. Always be finding consistently every single day to ensure that you can have consistent production. Okay. So let's get a little bit more specific into referrals here. How can we start getting more referrals? Well, let me share a couple statistics with you that in hopes to kind of get you excited about possibly figuring out how you can be more systematic with asking for referrals. Okay, so check this out. Salespeople who actively seek out and exploit referrals earn 4 to 5 times more than those who don't. 92% of buyers trust referrals from people that they know. Think about that. Like if you get a referral from a customer, 92% these referrals that you get from your customers are going to trust you because they trust your friend. Very interesting. 91% of customers say they'd give a referral, but only 11% of salespeople ask for a referral. So let's put it this way. Like we've got 10 customers and we just ask them, hey, would you guys give a referral? And guess what? 9 out of the 10 say, yep, I would give you a referral. 9 out of them. 9 out of 10 would say they would give you a referral. But then only 11% of us are asking for referrals. I don't know. I think that honestly, if you want to get more referrals, ask for referrals. I think that's very simple, okay? We're going to talk about in a moment about maybe what's keeping us from asking for referrals, okay? Because I found that a lot of times we know what to do, but there's other things, which is usually ourself, that's getting in the way from us actually doing it. So we're going to talk about that, okay? 73% of executives prefer to work with sales professionals referred by someone they know. Interesting. Companies with formalized referral programs experience 86% more revenue growth over the past 2 years when compared to the rest. So an 86%, almost 100%, almost doubling the business by having some sort of formalized referral program. So when you think about that, do I have, if I'm a team member, do I have some sort of formalized referral program? And the way I interpret that is, do I have some sort of systematic way to ask for and obtain referrals as a team member? And if I'm an agency owner listening to this, does the agency, does my team, do they have some sort of systematic way to ask for referrals, to remember to ask for referrals, but then ask in a way where they can actually obtain them, okay? Because I don't know about you, but 86% revenue growth sounds like a good time to me. The lifetime value of referred customers is on average 16% higher than that of non-referred customers, okay? So let's, this all sounds great, culture, and yeah, this is something that, like, I've heard this before, this is old news. My question is, why aren't you asking for referrals then? If you know the power and the compounding effect of just asking for referrals and becoming consistent with that, why in the world are you not doing it? Okay, so here's the number one reason that us team members don't get referrals. They don't ask. The number one reason team members do not get referrals is because they do not ask, okay? So why are we not asking? This is the question I want you to think about. Not why are team members not asking? Why am I not asking for referrals or asking consistently? Here are 8 reasons I've identified in my experience being a team member, but also in coaching and helping, hundreds, if not thousands of team members nationwide. Okay, so the first reason is that we simply forget. We are busy. If you were like me as a hybrid sales service role, I'm trying to juggle writing auto, fire, life, and health, and growing all these different lines of insurance, still helping out with service and making sure our customers are happy and helping with their questions. There's a lot going on. That the first reason is that we simply forget. Okay, the second reason is maybe we're not organized enough to ask. Whether that's mentally, whether that's in your CRM, we're just not organized enough to ask. The third is that we don't have a process. Like, we know what to do, and in theory it sounds awesome. Like, Coulter, yeah, like, dude, just ask for more referrals and you'll get more referrals. Well, here's the thing. In theory it sounds great, and maybe some of you have tried and attempted to ask for referrals just for you to not get any referrals and people not to give you any, that your customers and your prospects and maybe even yourself, you've convinced yourself that referrals don't actually work. I don't know. That might be the case for you. It might not be. But, if we don't have a process, if we don't know how, it's an easy out for ourselves to not ask for referrals. And we think that it's something that we'll get to later on down the road when we feel more confident and comfortable with our position. Okay, so we don't have a process. It's hard to know what to do if you don't know what to do. Okay? The fourth thing is maybe we don't have a plan. Maybe we don't have a plan to make referrals part of what we do consistently. Fifth thing, maybe we have a fear of rejection. Maybe we don't want to have to deal with that rejection because it hurts and it affects our confidence, so that we just think that we're safer and better off by not asking at all. The sixth reason is, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for whatever reason, we convince ourselves that it's uncomfortable. I don't actually think it is, but I think we convince ourselves that it's uncomfortable to ask for referrals. The seventh reason is, we don't want our customers to feel like we're like needy, we're desperate, or pushy. We don't want them to be thinking about us in that way. We've just developed this great relationship with them. The last thing that we want to do is like harm that relationship by coming across as needy, desperate, or pushy. We don't want to be known as a salesperson for these people that we just wrote. And then I think the eighth reason is maybe we just don't understand how effective it really is. Okay, but my hope is that just looking here and understanding conceptually that it's obvious. The more referrals we can get, the more quotes we're going to do. And the more quotes we're going to do, the more we're going to close. It's fairly obvious. And we also know that and maybe it's just a reminder, right? Like, when you get an internet lead versus a referral, which one to you is a better lead? Which one to you has a higher likelihood of closing? Well, it's going to be the referrals. Okay, so we know all of this, but if you're not asking for referrals or you're not consistently asking, I would ask why. What's preventing me from asking for referrals or asking consistently? And I think you'll find some insight that might be able to help you know what's getting in the way. And when you know kind of what's going on with your current situation, you're self-aware, you can then make plans to maybe move through those beliefs that you have. Maybe make plans to remember to ask for referrals more. Maybe make plans to get more organized, or maybe you start to make a plan for yourself to work through this fear of rejection that you might have. But it's really hard for me, I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to really understand what I can do if I don't know what I'm currently doing that's working and it's not working. I believe that the first step of any sort of self-improvement, the first step to any sort of improvement in your production is self-awareness. Get aware by asking yourself, why am I not asking for referrals, or why am I not asking for referrals consistently? Okay, I think you'll learn a lot by just simply asking those questions. Okay, and so the next question I would ask is what would it take for you to start asking for referrals consistently? What would it take? Is it going to take a sticky note that you put on your computer so you remember? Is it going to take an alarm that you set on this thing so that you remember? Is it going to take learning kind of the language of asking for a referral? Maybe is it going to take just commitment from you? Right? Because here's the deal. I think, the experience that I've had in sales and knocking on doors, and even backing up previous to before I even did sales, I was a missionary for 2 years. I'm 18 years old and went to Mexico City for a couple weeks to attempt to learn Spanish. And then I'm in Arizona for the rest of my 2 years. I think that I had a commitment that I didn't understand then, but I had a commitment that I was out there and I was going to stick with it. And I was going to figure it out. I was going to stick with and learn Spanish. Now, mind you, I didn't know Spanish before I went out there. And I'll tell you, for about 6 months, I remember sitting with, we have a companion, we have another missionary that's always with us. I remember sitting with my companion in these appointments that we'd have, and I don't even know anything that's going on. They're just talking in Spanish and I don't understand anything. I'd fall asleep, but I remember it was very uncomfortable. I was in uncomfortable situations, and I almost learned how to be okay with uncomfortable situations. I almost learned that there's no way for me to really learn unless I just put myself in environments where I'll learn, unless I put myself in positions where I'm almost forced to learn. So I think being a missionary kind of taught me that. And hey, guess what? I eventually learned Spanish. I can speak Spanish fluently. I'm excited. We're going to be going to Mexico on a cruise here in a couple weeks. And it's always fun to be able to know that, look, dude, you freaking learned Spanish. That's crazy. And so I think that gave me some sort of platform of confidence, and almost like a willingness, and almost like I was okay with being uncomfortable, because when I'm uncomfortable, when I'm kind of expanding myself, that's when I grow and that's when I learn. And so then I get going and I start knocking doors to try to sell security systems. Guys, it wasn't like I was a natural born salesperson. My first 4 days, knocking 8 hours a day, I didn't sell a single thing. And guess what? I wasn't making any money. And so that is a mental battle. I remember being very close. I was called my mom. I was like, okay, I'm going to give it till the end of the week. If I don't sell anything, I'm coming home. But I remember what happened is I committed, and it was like a Wednesday, and I said, you know what? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I am going hard. I know I haven't sold anything, but I'm going to commit. There's no plan B here. I'm going to commit for the next 3 days to figure it out. And when I say I'm going to commit, I'm going to be strategic and I'm going to work smart. And I'm going to figure out, okay, what I've been doing is not working. What can I learn to maybe do a little bit differently to hopefully start to maybe close some deals here? And so part of my commitment was not just going out and doing the work, but part of the commitment that I feel like helped me was that I went back home after a full days of knocking and I trained. I got around people that were having success and I picked their brain. I said, here's what I've been doing. What are you doing? And then I'd say, hey, can I practice this with you? And can you just kind of give me some pointers? Can you give me some feedback? I committed in that way. And then I'd wake up the next morning and I was training, from the whole day until I got onto the doors, which was about 1:00. So that whole morning I'm training. And I felt like that is what I mean by that commitment. It's not just committing and showing up and doing the work. It's committing to figure out how I can gain some skills, gain some knowledge that when I do show up and do the work, that work can actually work for me. And here's what happened. I ended up selling 5 accounts in the next 3 days. To give you an idea, I made more money in those next 3 days in that weekend than I would have made a whole 2 months back at home at my previous job. But it wasn't easy. It's not like it just happened for me. It took me committing, going all in, not having a plan B to get there, and training and working smart. That to me was the commitment that allowed me to do that. And after I had that experience, guess where my confidence goes? Boom, it levels up and I learned how to sell. I developed all these skills. When I get into insurance, I have that. But right away, it didn't happen for me in the same way. I wrote maybe 10 life insurance policies a year my first 2 years. And I'll tell you, it felt awfully familiar. I know that feeling of rejection. I know not being able to understand people because I don't speak Spanish in my first 3 to 6 months of learning it. I knew that feeling. I knew that same feeling when I was in door to door and it wasn't working for me my first 4 days. I knew that same feeling of rejection, of almost helplessness, like nothing's working. That when I had it in insurance, it was familiar. And I knew that, okay, if I can learn Spanish, if I can sell door to door, I can learn how to sell life insurance in the same way. And what happened, it was that commitment. It was the commitment to go all in, the commitment to figure it out, the commitment to not have a plan B. And again, I was having the conversations when I was writing 10 life apps a year. The activity was there, but when I talk about commitment, what I see happening was I actually sought out help to figure out what I was doing wrong, to figure out how I could make all of my life insurance conversations actually work for me so I could close more policies. And I committed to keep showing up, keep trying these things, and continue to figure out how I could become better. And beautiful things started to happen. I wrote 123 life apps my third year. I did about $35,000 in premium. My fourth year, I did 231 life apps. about 100,000 in annual life premium. My 5th year, 251 life apps with 151,000 in premium. And so it took being uncomfortable and being in a position where I didn't know how to do it, and then committing to figuring out how to do it on top of continuing to show up every day, that allowed me to kind of connect the dots a little. Okay. And so my hope is that as you're consuming this podcast, my hope is that you are proactive with your learning, that as we've gone throughout these different parts of your sales process as a team member, finding, attention, presentation, closing, reviews, follow-ups, and now referrals and networks, my hope is that you can get into the habit of learning how to ask yourself questions to figure out where you are missing the boat. What part of this process has holes in it where you're leaving a lot of opportunity on the table, a lot of opportunities just escaping because that piece of your process has holes in it. Like, where is that for you? Because I'm telling you, when you have that ability and that skill to know what's going on, what's working, what's not with what you're currently doing, it's going to allow you to know what questions to ask people like me, my top producing team member coaches, your agent, or anybody that's been successful in what you're trying to do. It's going to help you to know what questions to ask them. And I think that becomes very powerful, because then you know, oh my word, here's a hole in my process. And oh my word, I figured out the reason the hole's there is because of these things that's going on in my mind. Okay, now we know what questions to ask. Now things can really be sped up with our learning in a way that sticks, in a way where we can hang our hat. Okay, so guys, referrals. Referrals are very powerful. Let's talk about networks real quick. Networks are also very powerful. I want you to think of this concept that the key to many is one. Is there someone that you know, maybe that's, in a car dealership, or maybe someone that does mortgages, or maybe someone that's at a leasing company? Is there someone that you know that you have somewhat of a relationship with, that maybe you could somehow figure out how to deliver value for those people without asking for anything in return? Like, is there someone in your life that you know that might have access to a lot of your customers or your dream customers? Like, I want you to think about that, but I want you to think, instead of just going and just asking these people for a relationship, like, earn the relationship. Go and deliver value without expecting anything in return, right? Maybe it's like as simple as maybe you put together a little care package for the person at the car dealership that you know, and just go drop it off and say, hey, I thought you'd like to know that, we can help with anything that you guys might need. Just simply doing that, right? We're implying that, hey, send us referrals, right? But we're doing it in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, it almost creates this, it's the law of reciprocity. When you do something good and kind to someone else, they naturally want to do something good and kind back for you. Okay, maybe that person at the leasing office that's at the apartment complex, maybe you went to high school with them. Like, go and just make an introduction. Be like, hey, it's been a minute. We want to just deliver this care package for you, right? Just see what happens. But I want you to think about that the key to many is one. To establish those relationships with centers of influence that have access naturally to all of your dream customers, and just develop a relationship with those people. Be a good person. Be someone in the community that delivers value and is not just asking for it. Okay, I think that's one thing that can just allow a whole bunch of gasoline to be poured onto this fire that you've got lit. And then referrals, guys, like, let's work a little bit smarter. And I want you to think, this is where I'm going to end with referrals, which I've learned from one of our coaches, Maddie. She's out of Colorado. Maddie is consistently doing 120 apps a month. 20 to 30 of those apps are financial services. She absolutely crushes it. She went from 33 life apps in 2023 to 172 in 2024. She only works new business. She does not work internet leads. She works referrals. And it's as simple as this. Maddie has a 3-touch referral system where at the close of the sale, she's going to ask for a referral. And then after that, she's then going to text them and remind them about giving the referral. And then the third thing is, now she's going to write a handwritten note, send it in the mail, reminding them that the best compliment that you could ever give us is a referral. So Maddie puts more focus on asking more than one time than just asking one time, trying to figure out the exact word track to ask to get a referral. So when you think about that it's not just about how we're asking, but it's also about how often we're asking. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and we'll catch you in the next one.